something wasn't right. I knew that I couldn't breathe. I had no strength and I was vomiting all night. I had called my mom and I was like, you're gonna have to come and get me and take me to the emergency room. I don't know if I'm in labor. I don't know if something's wrong with my heart. I don't know what's wrong, but something's not right. I got in the shower and I got ready and I was washing my hair and I was so short of breath and so weak that I couldn't hold my arms up to get the shampoo out of my hair, the conditioner, anything. I remember sitting there saying, God, please just don't take my baby, just take me. Mom came, she took me to the emergency room. When we got there, I remember getting out of the car, getting into the elevator, and that was it. I have no recollection of anything else.
Ms. Petry came in to our triage area because she was experiencing some shortness of breath and not feeling well. And one of our phenomenal nurses, Debbie Fisher, a long-term obstetrical nurse, was working in triage that day, and she quickly recognized that this was not an obstetrical emergency with this patient, notified Dr. Bush, her physician. We got her into surgery very quickly to do an emergency C-section because it could impact the baby's heart rate too when mom was being compromised.
The nurse from labor and delivery triage called me and said that Alicia didn't look very good and she was very concerned. I asked her how she was doing and she said, I'm doing great. She doesn't remember saying that, but she was definitely in trouble. So we actually moved back for a C-section because of the baby. And we called a stat C-section and ran back to the operating room. And we were back in the operating room probably within a minute of me seeing her, actually.
So once we get her to sleep, once the endotracheal tube passes her vocal cords is when I tell Dr. Bush, you may start your C-section.
As soon as she was put to sleep with her general anesthetic, that's when we noticed she was coding. She had no heartbeat.
There was no more pressure. We lost the pulse, and immediately I told Dr. Bush, I'm in trouble. And that's when I said, well, you got to get this baby out right away. And at that point, I was on her chest doing chest compressions.
I had to do a very stat C-section, and while I was doing the C-section, CPR was being performed by Dr. Costilla. Well, when the code was called, then everyone came from the woodwork, of course, and the nurses, the nurse anesthetist, the anesthesia, we had residents involved, so everyone came to the room.
Many of us took turns doing CPR, and when one of us got fatigued, the next person stepped in.
I don't think I have ever seen, nor will I ever again, seen anyone deliver a baby that fast and with that event going on.
It was one of the times in my career of 40 years of being a nurse where I absolutely saw every team member giving beyond what they could do to make this a successful outcome. And of course, we kept listening for what her status was and what was happening, and were aware when they got her transferred to Cleveland. And then several months later, I don't know exactly how long it was before she was a recipient of a heart transplant.
I know that I did not realize that what the magnitude of Alicia's situation was, but when I went into the lab and looked at her, I'll never forget how emotional it was. I mean, I'm a father, and I'm an older dad, and I've got young kids. And I looked at her and I said, man, we can't give up on that. I feel that I was privileged, maybe even blessed, to have been there to help her get her on bypass that night. And then the calls were put out. But I'll never forget, metabolically, her acid status was awful. She had a pH of something like 6.9. She was on all these drips. So after we got her on ECMO, her pH was up to 7.3. I felt good about her being supported, and then the rest is amazing history of her being taken to Cleveland Clinic. They put an LVAD in her that she kept for a couple of years, and I had the privilege of seeing her back here in Charleston. And she would come to the office, and I mean, it was very, very emotional. I must say that whole evening, all I could do was just pray for her, and I did. And I continue to pray for her that she'll have a long life.
2 months later, I found myself in a bed. I couldn't really move. My muscle, I had none. I just had my hand on my stomach, and I had a trach at the time, and felt that my stomach was flat, and I knew that I was pregnant. He's okay, and I wanted to see him. I wanted to see for myself that my baby was okay and that I did have him. I didn't want him to just tell me something to keep me calm. The nurse said, well, bring him in, let her see him so she can calm down. And I seen him, and I remember crying, saying, I'm a mommy, Mom, I'm a mommy. As time went on, I was asking questions, and when Mom said, well, do you know Dr. Lewis? And with me working at Memorial, I knew him, and I knew that if he'd done something to me, it was important and it was big. It took, I think, up until a year before I actually understood everything that had happened. My support system is fantastic, so if it wasn't for them and God and my child and obviously the doctors and stuff that was here, I don't think I wouldn't be here. Being a transplant recipient is amazing. Every single day, I don't take it for granted at all. I was lucky enough to meet my donor's family, and I know who my donor was, and I know so much about her, and I try my best to live and do everything in honor of her, and the fact of knowing that it was her that got me this far, and now I can be a mom and do the things that I want to do in life.
Alicia is an amazing person. Her personality, she bubbles when you talk to her. It's been a great journey for her as far as giving her life, a life with meaning, life with no real disability, and that's the whole joy of this whole one case makes it so much worthwhile of all the years I have spent doing this. Just seeing her and her outcome has been miraculous.
It means everything, seeing people come out and support, and with the American Heart Association, without the funding and the donations and things, maybe I wouldn't have had the ECMO here. Maybe I wouldn't have had the technology here that I needed at that time to get me to where I am today. So it's extremely important.
Just for our local citizenship of the things that are happening here in the cardiac department, especially headed up by Dr. Bates, who started our fellowship program, some of the research that's being done, some of the partners that I have who have set up a shock protocol so that we can identify these patients early who need advanced care, such as the percutaneous LVAD, the Impella, or ECMO. And it's an amazing thing that's happening right here at this hospital, and the citizenship needs to know that every dollar they give to the Heart Association will help us get better here to save the lives of our people that we serve here in this part of West Virginia. It's a very crucial bit of information that we want to get out there to everyone, and I thank everyone contributing for the future of this program.
I think it's just integral that research continues, that we keep learning, and that folks like Dr. Abraham and them are allowed to continue the research and the fine medicine that they've created over the years that's sustained people's lives and enhance the services that we provide. So anything anybody can do to foster continuing that opportunity, I just really encourage that.
Thank you, that was my mommy.
Thank you for coming out tonight. Thank you for all of your donations, and thank you for helping people like me have a fighting chance.